Hello, guys, and welcome to another episode of Government. And of course, I trust that you'll be enjoying yourself in all of our government classes, right? And today we're going to look at the executive as another arm or organ of government. Executive. Okay, so we're looking at the executive today. We're going to look at what the executive does, the functions, the types of executive that we have. All right, and I trust that you're going to enjoy every bit of it. Do not forget that these tutorials, these episodes, they are brought to you by the O3 Schools application. We have for the JAMB, we have for the WAEC. Okay, so if you're preparing for WAEC, WAEC is going completely CBT now, right? So please, you must ensure you have a good tool like the O3 Schools WAEC app, and JAMB also the O3 Schools JAMB app, okay, so that it can perform optimally well in the examination. Right. So before we talk about the app, let us see a past question from the JAMB app. This is a 2009 question, number 42. It says here that the executive checks the excesses of the legislature through A says assent to bills, B says the use of veto powers, C says the ratification of treaties, this is the issuance of orders. Okay, so these are many questions that we're going to see at the end of the class, right? What made our class very different and interesting is that we teach you first and then we'll now answer questions, and after we have taught you, you will not even see any reason for us to answer the question. You will answer them yourself because everything has become easy for you. You must, first of all, you cannot give what you don't have. You must learn first. Okay, so please ensure you download the O3 Schools application for JAMB and WAEC. All right, the app has everything you need to study for your exam. Okay, so all the past questions are there for all the subjects. All right, also there's a classroom that has the latest JAMB or WAEC syllabus, all the lecture notes structured according to the syllabus, video lessons, flashcards. You can create timetable on the application and it will help you to finish your syllabus in time. Also, we have the question search feature. Just like where we search for this question, we went to the app, clicked on question search, selected government as a subject, then we just type executive. All the questions that JAMB has said or WAEC has said that resemble that has executive in them will come out for you to answer, making you to be able to gain confidence after answering all the questions. Okay, so please get the app. Also, there's a mock exam on the application every Saturday. Students come to the application to compete with each other to win a lot of amazing prizes. But for winning prizes, they get you to JAMB past questions or WAEC past questions on the WAEC app, likely exam questions to familiarize yourself with how examiners set questions. Okay, and you'll be seeing your results released. Okay, just like normal exam, thereby building your confidence and casting fear away from you forever. All right, so please download the application, activate it. There's an activation fee for the app. Okay, do not be scared to activate. All right, if you want to activate, you can message this number on WhatsApp 09121515246, or you can just click on activate on the app. After downloading the app, at the top you find where they wrote buy activation key. Click on it, you'll see the option. You can pay online, it's recommended. Okay, you can decide to make direct transfer to the account number there. All right, the amount is there, the account number is there. Make the payment, send the receipts to this number on WhatsApp. You'll get your activation key within the twinkle of an eye. All right, so please, you have everything you need to succeed. So please do not stress yourself and do not stress your brain. All right, use the application and you are good to go. Now we're talking about the executive. Okay, so the executive, in the last class we looked at the legislature. All right, we saw the functions. Okay, so now what does the executive do? Okay, what's the function of the executive? Okay, they implement, they enforce. Okay, so that the function of the executive is to implement what policies, to enforce those policies. Okay, so that is the function of the executive. So it's an arm of government. Let us put that down. Executive, say it's an arm of government. Put executive this way. Executive is an arm of government with the responsibility of implementing. They implement the laws that are made by the legislature. Okay, so implementing, also they enforce those laws, enforcing, and then they now execute. They execute policies and executing government policies. Okay, please, this is short for government. Okay, please understand, write it in full in your notes. Okay, so the executive is an arm of government that is responsible or that is charged with the responsibility of implementing laws, okay, enforcing those laws, all right, and executing what? Government policies, okay. That is the function of the executive, okay. So the executive is in charge of what? Of implementing policy, of making policies to take care of the day-to-day running of the government, all right. So you know, government has to be run, all right. Business has to go on, and it's the function of the executive to what? To see that what? That these daily activities of the government are being taken care of, okay. So that is what the function of the what? Of the executive. Executive is in charge with what? With implementing, with enforcing, and executing government policies. So in other words, you can say that the executive is the arm of government that what? That carries out, okay, and enforces the laws that are made by the legislature, okay. So they carry out, okay, and then they enforce, okay, laws, okay, made by the legislature. Okay, so the legislature will make laws, the executive will what? Will carry out what? Those laws, we will enforce the laws, okay? That is the function of the executive, okay? So if you cannot say that is the arm of government responsible with what? Implementing, enforcing, and executing government policy, just simply says an arm of government that carry out and what? And enforces what? The laws that are made by the legislature. It will still also go well. It is the part of government that put laws into action, okay? So they put laws into action, all right, and ensure the day-to-day running, okay, of what? Of the affairs of the government, okay. Please take note of that. So in simple term, executive, legislature, they make the laws. Executive, they carry out or they enforce the laws that are made by the legislature, okay. So they put those laws into action. Those laws that have been made, they put it into action. That is the function of the executive, okay. So now let's quickly see the types of executive, okay. There are many types of executive, all right. I think about 8 of them that we're going to look at, all right. We're going to begin with the simpler, so the most important ones, or the most popular ones, okay. Most popular ones that we see, all right. We have the dual, we have the single or unitary executive, we have the dual executive, we have the collegiate, okay. We have what? Many other types. Let's quickly just see some of them. But before we do that, right, ensure that you have liked this video. Many of you watch our videos, you do not subscribe, you do not like, you do not follow us on our social media handles. This is very, very bad, okay? Watch this. If you are watching the video right now, please pause everything you are doing and give us what a like button. Wherever you are watching from, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, okay? Like our videos, because the more you like, the more students who are preparing for exam will see these videos, and it will help them also, okay? And also do not forget to subscribe, okay? If it's on YouTube, follow us on TikTok, follow us on Facebook, all right? And of course, you can copy the link and share it to your friends and loved ones, all right? So now, let's quickly see the types of what of executives that have types of executives. All right, so now, what are the types of executives that have? Like I said, we have the single, the one we call unicephalous executive, okay? We have single, okay, that is unitary or unicephalous. Okay, then after the single, we now have the dual executive, okay? Dual, this one is called bicephalous, okay? Then we now have the parliamentary executive, Then we now have the presidential executive. Then we now have the one by the groups called collegial executive. Then we now have hereditary. Okay, this one can be, you can transfer it, okay? It can be what? Transferred. They will now have number 7, elected executive. Then number 8, we now have nominal versus real. Okay, so these are the types of executives that we have, right? We have the single executive, which we will call the unicephalous executive or the unitary executive. Then we now have the dual executive, what we call the bicephalous executive. Then we have the parliamentary executive, we have the presidential executive. We have this one by groups, okay? Collegial executive, we have hereditary, we have elected executive. Then we now have nominal versus real executive. We're going to look at each of them one after the other, all right? We're going to take a swap at them quickly. We'll not waste so much time. Let's begin with the single or the unicephalous executive. Okay, so the single or unicephalous executive. In the single or unicephalous, all right, there's only one head of the executive. Okay, in the single or unicephalous executive, there's only one head of the executive. All right, so one person is both the head of state and the head of government. All right, there's only one executive head, okay, of government. All right, so in unicephalous, there's only one head. There is only one head of the executive. Okay, so for single or unicephalous executive, there's only one head of the executive. That means that one person performs the roles of of head of state and head of government. Okay, so one person performs the role. He has full full executive power. Okay, one person performs the role of of head of state and also performs the role of head of government. Okay, the person that I'm talking about here has full executive power. Full executive power rests on that one person alone. All right, so that is single or unicephalous executive. There's only one head of the executive. Okay, all right, one person, okay, perform the roles of both the head of state and head of government, and the person has full executive power. Example, okay, we see it in Nigeria. All right, our president in Nigeria, okay, is both the head of state, okay, and head of government, both the head of state and head of government. Okay, so we see this in Nigeria. Also in the US, we see this. Okay, in US, the president, okay, perform these two roles also. Okay, so that is single. So what are the features? What do we see when it comes to unicephalous executive? Okay, you see that power is concentrated on on one person. Okay, in unicephalous. All right, so features. Okay, you see that power is concentrated on one person. Okay, and of course the person has to be directly elected by the people. Okay, so because like you see examples, president, the person has to be directly. Number two, the person has to be directly elected by the people. Okay, so and then also the ministers or cabinet need to work under that one person. All right, so in unicephalous, the ministers or cabinet members, okay, they work under that one person. Okay, so that is another feature. Okay, you see mostly you see this feature in presidential systems. Okay, so it's mostly a common feature in presidential system of government. Okay, so that is unicephalous executive. Okay, I believe that is very, very clear. So we should not miss any points that pertain to this. There's only one head of the executive. The person has full executive power and functions as the head of state and head of government. Okay, so now let us see the dual executive. Okay, please ensure you have downloaded the O3 Schools application, ensure you have activated it, and you are gunning for success in your exam. All right, you will see how beautiful you perform, how wonderful you perform. Let's say dual executive. All right, so now dual executive. Okay, what does dual means? Dual means two. Okay, so that means for dual executive, we're talking about two heads. All right, we're talking about two heads in dual executive. That means that power is shared between two people, two heads. Okay, one is the head of state, the other one is the head of government. Okay, so that is executive, dual executive. It's also called bicephalous executive. Okay, dual executive is also called bicephalous executive. So power is shared between what? Both of them. All right. So one usually what? The head of state. Head of state. Okay, while the other is what? Is the head of government. Okay, we see this in the United Kingdom. United Kingdom. In the United Kingdom, we see what? The king is the head of state. Okay, the head of state is the king. Okay, while what? The head of government is what? Is the prime minister. Okay, so this is what we see in what? In the United Kingdom. All right, so that this is what is a perfect example. And what are the features? What do you see in this? Okay, in the bicephalous, you see that what? That the executive power is what? Is shared. Okay, executive power is shared between the number one, executive power is shared. These are features of what? Of the dual executive is shared rather between them. All right. So basically, the running of the government, the day-to-day running of the government is done by what? By the head of government, by the prime minister. Okay. While what? The head of state, okay, which is the king now, is just a ceremonial head. All right. Please take note of that. All right. The head of state, that is the king, is a ceremonial head, while the prime minister, okay, runs the affairs, okay, of the government. All right, please take note of that. Okay, so the head of state is what? Which is now the king now. All right, it's a ceremonial head, while what? The prime minister runs the day-to-day affairs of the government. So you may want to ask, what is a ceremonial head? Okay, a ceremonial head is just like the face of the government. Okay, the face of the government. The person may be more popular than the head of government, than the person running the government itself. Okay, it's like the face of the government is the one that greets visitors, attends events, okay, signs documents, okay, and so on and so forth. All right, that is the face, is a ceremonial head, but the person cannot make important political decision. Okay, so the king now, for example, in the United Kingdom, is a ceremonial head. All right. You see the person, you see the person almost everywhere. All right, but of course, the ceremonial head or the head of state in what? Dual executive does not have what? The power to make important political decisions. That's why I call them the ceremonial head. Please take note of that. All right, so the head of state, that is the king, is ceremonial. All right, it's a ceremonial head, while the prime minister runs the day-to-day affairs of the government. And the dual executive is very, 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 very common in what? In parliamentary system of government. Okay, the dual executive, all right, is a common feature in parliamentary system. We're going to look at all of them. System of government. Okay, I hope that is very, very clear. Now, let us see the other types that we have. Okay, for example, we have parliamentary executive. Okay, so for the parliamentary executive, okay, it is basically when the executive comes, okay, from what? From the legislature. All right, the executive comes from the legislature, and that executive is accountable to the legislature. All right, that means that what? The head of state, all right, is from, and the cabinet members, they are members of what? Of the parliament. That's what it means. When we talk about parliamentary executive, that's what we mean. All right, so in parliamentary executive, all right, the head of state, okay, is a member. The executive is a member of what? Of the parliament. All right, the executive is cabinet members. They are all members of the parliament. Okay, so let us see that. All right, so we'll talk about what? Parliamentary. That's number 3 now. Parliamentary executive. Okay, we say this is when the executive, okay, comes from the legislature. Comes from the legislature and is accountable to what? To it. Okay, it comes from the legislature and it's also what? Accountable to the what? To the legislature. All right, so that is what parliamentary executive. All right, so we see this in what? In UK, we see it in India. All right, we see it in Canada. All right, these are the countries that practice for this type of what executive. Okay, in UK, in India, in Canada. All right, so the head of government, all right, the prime minister, the cabinet members, all of them, they are members of the parliament. Okay, so that is what parliamentary executive what is all about. Then we have the presidential executive. Number 4, presidential. Okay. All right, please just know one or two about what them. You do not know where question will be asked from. All right. So the presidential executive is a type of executive where what the executive, okay, is both the head of state and the head of what of government. Okay, we saw it just like we saw in what's in single. Okay, so the head of state is both the executive rather is both the head of state and the head of government. Okay, the executive is both the head of state and head of government. Okay, so that is that. Like you see what in Nigeria, all right? Presidential will operate what? Presidential what executive. But please note that what's it called? The president is not a member of the parliament in presidential executive, is it? No. But for parliamentary executive, the executive is what is a member. The prime minister, the cabinet members, they are members of what? Of the parliament. They are members of the legislature. Then we have what? The collegial what executive. Okay. Number 5. Collegial executive. Okay, in this type of executive, power is shared among what? A group of what? Of people, all right? Power is shared among a group of what? Of people, all right? This means that our power is not vested on only one person, all right? Power is not vested on only one person. It is shared among this group of people, and each person what heads what? A department, all right? And for example, this happens in what? In Switzerland. We see this what? In Switzerland. All right, please, you may see this kind of questions. This if I'm an examiner, this kind of questions I will ask you. All right, so you can see this type of what executive what in Switzerland, where they have what? The Federal Council. They have the Federal Council, all right, in Switzerland, and which they are made up of what? Of 7 members. All right, and of course, each of these members they head a department, and one of them serves as president for only 1 year. Okay, so that is what collegial what executive. Power is shared among a group of people in collegial executive. Please take note of this. This is your past questions. Okay, so please you must take note of that. Collegial executive. Power is shared among what? A group of people. All right. For example, we see this what in Switzerland. So power is not vested in only one person alone. Then we have the hereditary what executive. Okay. Number 6. Hereditary executive. Okay. In this type of executive is a type of executive that is inherited. So you can call this one inherited executive. Okay, this means that what can be passed down from parents. Okay, it can be inherited. All right, so you can pass it from parent to child. That's how I call it hereditary executive. You see this type of in Saudi Arabia. All right, you see that very common there. Okay, so you know what hereditary is. So it can be passed down from parent to the child. Then we have elected executive. Number 7. Elected. From the word elected, you should know that the executive are chosen through elections by the people or their representatives. Okay, so that is what elected executive. They are chosen through election, via election. Okay, so that is that for elected executive. You see that the most important one said basically be single, dual. Okay. Can talk about the parliament, okay? Then collegial also, okay? We see this one is presidential. It's almost kind of inside single, okay? So elected, example of elected executive is still Nigeria is an example. Our president is elected, okay? So elected is inside single or single executive, okay? So the 4 major types we're talking about here, maybe parliamentary, single, dual, collegial, hereditary, okay? And so on and so forth. Now, so for elected executive, we say that the executive are chosen through elections by the people. You must understand that. Okay. Now the last one, we now have nominal or what? Real executive. So in nominal, okay, or real executive, okay, just like we saw, right, for dual executive, okay, so one person, okay, power is shared, okay, the nominal executive does not what? He only performs what? Ceremonial or functions. Okay, it's like the ceremonial head. Is the ceremonial head, while what the real executive is the one that runs the government. Okay, so that's also another type of what of executive. So we have what? Real, number 8. Let me just say here, real versus nominal executive. All right. Okay, so in some executive, you see that what that definitely one of the what executive is what is a ceremonial head, okay, performs only ceremonial functions, while the real executive is the one in charge of what? Running day-to-day activities of what? Of the government. Okay, so these are the types of what? Of executive we have. I'll run through them. We have the single, okay, where power is what is vested in one person. The person has full executive power. He acts at the head of state and head of government, okay, like we see in Nigeria. We have the dual, okay, like we see in what? In United Kingdom, okay, where power is shared within two people. While the parliamentary, when what? The executive is a member of the parliament, is member of the legislature. The executive, that is what? The prime minister and the cabinet, that members of the parliament. Okay, so and they are answerable to what? They are accountable to that parliament, to the legislature. All right, they will not have the presidential what? Executive, where what? The executive is both the head of state and government. Collegial, a group. When you hear group, just think about collegial. Power is shared among a group of people. Then hereditary can be what? Inherited. Elected by the people. Real versus nominal. The nominal is what? Is what? The head of state, okay? It is a ceremonial head. I don't have the head of government who really runs the day-to-day, makes decisions about what, who make important key government decisions. Okay, is the real executive. All right, so now let us now see the functions of the executive. Functions of the executive. About rounding up, okay? In the next class, we'll look at members of the executive. We'll look about what's it called? Removal, okay, of what? Of the executive. All right. Possibly we will look at terms associated, okay, with what? With the executive, okay? So we'll finish it in the next episode. We do not want to make the videos too large so that I can be able to follow accordingly. All right. So now we're talking about functions of the executive. All right, so what are the functions of the executive? Number 1 is law enforcement, okay? They must ensure that the laws that are passed by the legislature are what? Are carried out, okay? So number 1 role is what? Is law enforcement. All right, let us see. Number 1 function, law enforcement, okay? So they ensure that the laws passed, okay, are carried out. Okay, so I do not want to write legislature there, all right? But if you are writing, you can say ensure that the laws that are passed by who? Is the legislature that passes the law, okay? They pass the laws and what the executive ensure, okay, as their function to what? To carry out what those laws, okay? Then number 2, another function we have is policy making, okay? Policy making, all right? So they design, okay? They design and what? And make what? Government what? Policies, all right? For example, free education, free healthcare, all right? Those are government what? Policies, okay? So they design and what? And plan government what? Policies, all right? Such as what? Education, healthcare, many other sectors, okay? So policy making is another function of what? Of the executive. Very important function, okay? So number 2, policy making, they design and plan government policies and what? Programs. Okay, so they design and plan government policies and programs. That is what? Another major function of what? Of the executive. Then number 3 is what? Is administration. Okay, they run the day-to-day activities of what? Of the government. Okay, then number 3, we now have what? Administration. Okay, administration. Okay, so they run the day, the government, what? The executive, they run the day-to-day what? day-to-day activities of what? Of the government. They ensure that the government is what is working. Okay, the ministries, all the departments, all the agencies. Okay, they control what? All of them. Okay, they ensure that what? That the government is working. Okay, so administration, they run the day-to-day. They run the day-to-day affairs of the government. Okay, so all the departments, all the agencies, all the ministries, okay, it is the function of the executive to make sure, okay, that they are working properly or optimally. Then number 4, okay, we now have what? Appointments. All right, number 4. Appointments. Okay, so it is what the executive that what they appoint. They appoint ministers. Okay, they appoint commissioners, like in the states. Okay, they appoint ambassadors and other public officials. All right, so it is the function of the executive to make appointments. All right, they appoint what? Ministers to head what? Several ministries, commissioners, all right, like in the states. All right, to head what? Several ministries. They also have ambassadors also, okay, and other what? Public what? Officials, okay, of what? Of the government. That's the function of what? Of the executive. Then number 5, now have what? Defense and security. Okay, number 5. Defense and security. Okay, so they protect what? The country, and then they ensure that there is peace in the country. There's internal peace. Okay, so they protect the country, and ensure internal peace. Internal peace. Okay, they have to ensure that there's peace in the country. So this is another function of what? Of the executive. Okay, defense and security, protect the country and ensure that there is what? Internal peace. Then we have preparation of budget. Preparation of what? Of budget. In the last episode, I told you that the legislature cannot prepare budget. Okay, so it's the executive that prepare budget. They plan how money is raised and spent each year. They plan how money is raised and spent each year. All right, so that's another function of what the executive. They plan, they prepare what? The budget. They plan how they raise money, okay, and they plan on how they spend it. All right, each what? Year. Then number 7, we have what? Representation. Okay, number 7, and that function, representation. Okay, so they represent what? The country. Okay, in what? In foreign affairs. All right, and also what? They sign what? International agreements. Okay, on what? On behalf of what? Of the country. All right, so they represent the country in foreign affairs. They represent the country in foreign affairs, and also they sign, okay, they sign international agreements and sign international agreements. Okay, so that's the function of the executive, to represent the country, right, in what? In foreign affairs, right? Matters have to do with what? With what? Other clients, all right? And then what? They sign international agreements. Then, of course, number 8, very importantly, maintenance of what? Of law and order, all right? So they work with what? Number 8 now, maintenance of law and order, all right? So they ensure, okay, that there's peace. They work with what? Several agencies, or the police, they work with police, they work with what? The army and other relevant agencies to ensure that what? That there's what? Law and what? Order. There's maintenance of law and order in the country, okay? So these are the functions of what? Of the executive, okay? Law enforcement, okay, make sure that what? They enforce the laws that have been passed by the legislature. Policy making, administration, appointment, they make appointment, defense and security, preparation of budget, and representation. Very, very important. Also, maintenance of law and order. Now, we're going to look at another very, very important function, which is what? Veto power, the use of veto power. All right. So, the use of veto power It's a way that the executive used to what? To checkmate what? The excesses of what of the legislature. All right. So, like for example, now a bill can be passed in the legislature and the president will refuse to sign it. Okay, he has the veto power. He has the constitutional right not to sign it if he does not want the bill to scale through. All right. So that's what we call veto power. Let us see veto power quickly before we close. Veto power. All right, so what is veto power? So veto power is the constitutional right of the executive, usually the president, to reject a bill, okay, that has been passed by the legislature. Okay, so the president has a right to reject the bill, okay, because you want to check the excesses of the legislature. All right, so to ensure proper checks and balances, okay, he has a right called the veto power that allows him to reject that bill. No, I will not pass this into law. Okay, this prevents hasty decisions, okay, or enacting bad laws. Okay, so let us really see what veto power is. Okay, we say it's the constitutional right. Constitutional right of the executive. Okay, usually the president. Usually the president to reject a bill passed by the legislature. Okay, so that is what veto power is. Okay, constitutional right of the executive, usually the president, to reject a bill, okay, passed by the legislature. It means that even if legislature have passed a bill, the president can reject it. President can still reject it, okay? And what are the purposes of veto power? Number one is to ensure proper checks and balance, okay? In the activities of the legislature. All right. Then number two, also to prevent hasty decisions, prevent hasty or bad laws, okay, from being enacted, okay, so that because the legislature will pass it, okay, president will just bam. No, he has to check, okay, so he may decide not to pass it into law, okay. So these are the purposes of veto power, and also to ensure that executive opinion is considered before a bill, okay, is being finalized, okay. So you can also add that to ensure that executive opinion is considered, okay, before passing a bill into law, okay. So that is veto power. All right. So now there are different types of veto power, okay. One is absolute veto, okay. One we call absolute veto. Number one, absolute veto power, okay. So absolute veto power is when the president completely rejects the bill, okay. Absolute veto power is when president, okay, rejects the bill completely, okay. That's what we call absolute veto power. Absolute veto power is when the president rejects the bill completely. In no one hear. Then we now have another one we call the qualified veto. Okay, number two, qualified veto. In the qualified veto, all right, the legislature, after the president has rejected it, the legislature can repass the bill later on, okay. They can repass, REPASS, they can repass the bill, all right, with a special majority vote, okay. They have to vote 2/3, okay, 2/3, okay, or for they have to have a 2/3 of the votes, okay, of the majority to be able to pass to be able to repass this bill. In that case, they do not need the president approval again, okay. If they repass the bill, okay, it will automatically become law. That is qualified veto. Absolutely, the president will reject it outrightly, all right. But qualified veto, after the president rejected it, they can now repass the bill. The legislature can now repass the bill, okay, and then it can be passed into law if they have 2/3 majority of the legislature voting, okay, for what? For that bill to be passed. Then we now have what I will call suspensive veto. Number 3. Suspensive veto. So in suspensive veto, okay, the president what will delay, okay, he will delay what the bill, okay, and then will not do anything about it, okay. So after some time, the legislature can now what? Can still what? Repass the bill and then to become the law. It can become law even without the president what assent, okay. So that is what suspensive veto. All right. Now have another one we now call pocket veto. Pocket veto, all right? And in pocket veto, all right, the president does nothing, does absolutely nothing. Okay, we'll just be looking at the bill, and after some certain time, the bill will automatically will just fail. Okay, it will not be passed. Okay, so this happens what in US, the president after 10 days, the US president does nothing about a bill that has been sent to him, okay, the bill will automatically breaks through, or sorry, falls through, okay, it doesn't break through, okay, it doesn't succeed, it just fails immediately, all right? So that happens in what? In pocket veto. Please understand, qualified, absolute, okay? In absolute, the president will reject it immediately, okay? Qualified, if 2/3, it can be repassed, and if 2/3 majority votes for the bill to be passed, it can be passed into law without the president assent, okay? Then suspensive, the president delays the approval of the bill, okay? And after some time, they can repass it again and then it can be called law. But in pocket veto, all right, the president does not do anything. And after some time, all right, the bill just fail, okay? So that is these are the types of veto that we have. So when it comes to veto in Nigeria, the Nigerian president has absolute constitutional right to reject a bill that has been sent to him. Okay, he has the right not to assent to any bill that has been sent to him. Okay, so the veto power in Nigeria is seen in what? In our constitution, 58 subsection 5. Okay, 58(5) of the 1999 constitution. Okay, so in this constitution, it shows that that if 2/3 majority of the House, that's of the legislative house, either both the Senate and the House of Reps, okay, if they have majority vote, if 2/3 of the majority vote for the bill to be passed, even without the president's consent, okay, or the president assent, the bill will be passed into law. Okay, so you can see it in 58(5) of the 1999 constitution. So that is basically what happens in Nigeria. Okay, so under section 58(5) of the 1999 constitution. Now, let us now go to the app, okay, and answer questions. All right, now everything becomes easy for you. So answering questions will not be a problem, okay, because you have what you have learned. So let us quickly go to the app, answer some questions, and we're out of here. Okay, let's see the ones we have. We have 2003, number 8 here. 2003. Number 8, it says that a collegial executive is a government in which power is vested in A says committee, B says monarch, C say parliament, D say president. Okay, so correct answer there would be A, committee, because we say in collegial government, okay, it is handled by a group, okay, group of people, all right, just like we said in Switzerland, 7, okay, all right, called the Federal Council, all right, that oversee. Now, 2003, number 8 is option A. 2007, number 18 says, the executive is mainly concerned with the A confirmation of appointments, B say approval of treaties, C says approval of budget, D says implementation of policies, okay? So the most important function, okay, is enforcing those policies, implementing them, okay? So they do other ones, so all right, but of course, implementation of policies is very, very important. It's more important than the others. So correct answer will be option D. 2013, number 8 says, as an executive, the commissioner is charged with the responsibility of A says making laws, B says implementing laws, C says writing laws, D says giving loans. Okay, correct answer is option B. So the executive is in charge of of implementing laws, implementing the laws that have been passed by the legislature. Okay, now 2009, number 42 says, the executive checks the excesses of the legislature through A says assent to bills. B says the use of veto power. C says the ratification of treaties. D says the issuance of orders. Obviously, the use of veto power, okay? That is a means where they work to ensure proper check and balance of what of the legislature. Correct answer is option B. 1999, number 11 says, the most important function of the executive organ of government is to A say formulate policies. B say give assent to bills. C say control foreign policy. D says enforce law. You see that later you say they don't repeat past questions, okay? They are all the same what past question, okay? Option D, okay, is correct. So you go to the app, you search for, just use the question search. Just go to click on question search. Okay, then click on government or select government as subject. Then type executive, okay? And many questions will come out for you, okay, to answer. Download the O3 Schools app, okay? Enjoy all of these wonderful features. I'll see you in the next class where we'll complete what? Our study on executive. See you there.